So the women of Tinder have graciously taken up the task of trying to improve men with what they're calling the Menprovement initiative. Yeah, that really rolls off the tongue. Of course, men haven't been requesting this. Women have just decided that men need improving, but not for the benefit of men, of course. No, it's for their own benefit. You see, the problem is there are too many male douchebags. I'll let the women of Tinder explain.
So, where are we with this douchebag situation?
The thing about douchebags is that they tend to cluster.
It's true. Our algorithm is showing hard clustering. In some demos, they travel in packs. We've got a solution. Bring me someone with real douchebag experience, and I'll show you how it works.
Who can we call?
I've got this.
Go right in. They're expecting you.
No, don't worry about it. This is for you.
Hey, welcome to Tinder.
Douchebag expert at your service.
All right, ladies, listen up. It's our job to make sure we give all the women in the world the tools they need to fight douchiness. Anytime, anywhere. And Whitney's dealt with a lot of douchebags in her life.
A lot. The last guy I dated had calf implants.
So we all agree that calling out douchebags should be easy and fun. So let's show Whitney new Tinder reactions.
Oh, genius.
Yes. First, we have our basic douche. He's a CEO at Self-Employed because he's overqualified for every job he's ever interviewed for.
Exactly. He shows up to your first date with a Bluetooth, and he tips the bare minimum on his black card.
I know this douche. He's the guy who's late because he was charging his vape. I like this.
Really?
And next, we have our intermediate douche.
This is the guy that lists his expectations right in his bio. He's into fitness, and you should be too.
He documents every trip to the gym on his Instagram feed.
Makes shirtless memes of himself that say this body wasn't built for monogamy.
Hashtag no days off guy.
And lastly, here we have our advanced douche.
So this one uses eggplant emojis as his opener and dinner's on me, baby, come hungry as his closer.
Just felt my uterus tilt inside my body. Need to sit down and straighten it out.
Now, the opening line there is a tad self-defeating. Most men are great, and then there are the douchebags. Well, perhaps you could just ignore the small number of douchebags because, as you said, most men are great. And given that most men are great, wouldn't it be more productive to concentrate on giving advice to women on how to attract those great men that are in such abundance? Well, they won't do that for a couple of reasons. One, because women don't need to improve themselves ever at all because they're already perfect. And two, because we know that's not what they really mean. It's that standard tactic of starting off a criticism with a compliment to make it sound like it's not a criticism. Hey, that's a really great idea, Trevor, but let's hear some other perspectives, which is code for your idea sucks. Doesn't anyone have anything better? And so this should be read as most men are douchebags and you need to fix yourselves. Now, of course, there definitely are male douchebags out there, and men are usually better at spotting them than women. Males can sniff other males' bullshit out fairly quickly. Women, on the other hand, take longer, partially because they want to believe the kind of douchebag that constantly compliments them. But this whole focus on douchebags is a bit of a red herring. The real problem with men, according to the women who actually use Tinder, is that they're not attractive enough. On Tinder, men swipe right almost half the time, women only 15% of the time. And remember, this app almost exclusively focuses on how people look. It's not about douchiness. This study showed that the bottom 80% of men were competing for the bottom 22% of women, whilst the top 20% of men were competing for the top 78% of women. Or put another way, a man of average attractiveness would be liked by less than 1% or 1 in 115 women on Tinder. Now, that study had a small sample size of just 27 women, but similar results were found on OkCupid, where 80% of men were rated below average looking. But it appears the women of Tinder are completely fine with this asymmetry of attraction, since their focus is on the menprovement of douchebag guys. Now, apparently Whitney Cummings is a comedian, although you wouldn't know it from this clip. So I checked out some of her material online, and I still find it hard to believe she's a comedian. And it's strange that a room full of women who work full-time at Tinder have to consult a woman whose comedic act revolves around talking about her own failed relationships with presumably douchebag men. And so the whole point of this exercise in lameness is that Tinder has come up with ways for women to disapprove of men, as if the statistics weren't enough to give them the hint. And as you can see here, they've developed special reactions that women only can use to counter douchey behaviour, such as really, 3 strikes, and throwing a virtual drink on someone, which of course is a good example of adult behaviour. There's also another clip where they preview an eye roll reaction. Now, the examples of douchebag behaviour they give here are not particularly egregious. They're men who are a little self-absorbed, over-exaggerating their virtues, and lacking in some basic self-awareness. So it's not difficult to imagine worse behaviour, like straight up just propositioning women for sex. Surely that would be an even better example of douchebag behaviour. But I wonder if a man in the top, say, 20% or top 1% who acted like a douche would get the same treatment as one of those lowly 80% of men that are deemed unattractive. Well, wonder no more. Some random guy made a Tinder troll account just to see how well a male model compares to the average guy. The photos he used for the troll account are of a male model, and this is what he had to say after his little experiment. Made a Tinder troll account just to see how well a male model compares to the rest of us. The results are unbelievable. Every single girl I swipe yes to has been an instant match. There hasn't been a single time where I've swiped yes and there was no match. But what is more interesting is that it didn't matter what he said to them. The girls just lapped it up. Let's have a look at a few examples. So these are examples of what I would call the not playing hard to get category. But there are some women who require a little more due diligence, but not that much. And then there are those that want a little something more out of the interaction. But again, not that much more. Now, here's one of the few times he actually got turned down, but it's not like he got abused for being a douchebag. She was very polite and almost apologetic. Now, of course, it's hardly surprising that good-looking males find it much easier to get laid. And don't get me wrong, I'm not some kind of prude that disapproves of casual hookups. Whatever floats your boat. The lesson we learn from this little experiment is that if you're a good-looking guy, you can get away with saying just about anything. Being a complete douchebag is absolutely no impediment as long as you have model looks. So ladies, if you don't want douchey behaviour, perhaps you shouldn't encourage it. Or better still, maybe you should just drop the act and stop pretending you care so much about douchey attitudes and just admit that you make your decisions almost entirely on the basis of looks. And that these little tools are not so much to deter douchey behaviour, but more to do with letting guys know that they don't measure up, which they probably know already given the rejection rate for most. And of course, we should always remember it's the poor, oppressed women's that have to live up to unrealistic standards of beauty. So I encourage all you douchebags to go over to Tinder's YouTube page and learn how to man-prove yourself with Tinder's helpful videos. But don't worry about leaving a comment to get feedback, because the comments have been disabled, of course. And you won't even be able to show your man-proval because they've disabled that function as well. You have to wonder what kind of reaction they were expecting to get here. Are the women of Tinder that self-absorbed that they think that castigating men for their failure to live up to their standards is actually a good way to encourage better behaviour? At best, you seem to be countering douchey behaviour with more douchey behaviour. We often hear feminists talk about the notion of male entitlement. However, if anything, this campaign speaks volumes about the entitlement of women. So, do you need help man-proving your douchey behaviour? Share your level of douchebaggery in the comments below. I'll see you next time.